The empty station. The space station floated in the middle of nowhere, silent like a ghost. Its huge metal body was dark. Only a few weak lights flickered in the endless night. A human traveler named Mark arrived at the docking bay. His small ship was old, its engines tired. He had been flying for days, alone and cold, looking for any place to rest. When the airlock opened, a strange sound echoed through the empty hall. The station seemed alive but abandoned. Mark stepped carefully, his boots hitting the floor with a hollow clang. His breath made white fog in the frozen air. The place smelled of rust and burnt wires. Something about this station felt wrong. Still, he needed food. He needed warmth. He followed a sign that said canteen. The letters were broken, some flickering, some gone. He walked through the narrow corridor, his heartbeat quickened with every step. The silence was heavy, like eyes watching him. But no one was there. The canteen door slid open with a slow creak. Inside, dim lights shone on empty tables, dust floating in the air. The place looked like it had been closed for years. Yet behind the counter, someone was there. It was a woman, not human. Her skin was pale silver, glowing faintly in the weak light. Her eyes were large, a deep green that seemed endless. She had long dark hair tied loosely, and a strange mark on her cheek. She wore an apron like any worker, but there was something noble in the way she moved. Mark froze, surprised. He had not seen anyone for days, and now an alien woman stood calmly behind the counter. She looked at him, and then smiled. Not a wide smile, but a soft one that carried secrets. "You came late," she whispered, her voice almost like a song. Mark felt his chest tighten. He had not heard a gentle voice in so long. He sat slowly on a chair, his eyes scanning the room. "This station, it's empty," he said. "Why are you here alone?" The alien woman tilted her head. She did not answer his question. Instead, she placed a cup in front of him. Steam rose from it, warm and sweet-smelling. It was a drink he had never seen before. The surface shimmered like liquid fire. Mark hesitated. He was thirsty, his throat dry, but he did not trust it. The woman leaned closer, her lips almost brushing his ear, and whispered words that made his heart race. "For a warm drink, I'll care for you behind the counter." Mark's hand shook slightly. He stared at the drink, then at her glowing eyes. He could not tell if it was kindness or danger hidden in her tone. The air felt colder, though the drink gave off heat. Mark pushed the cup aside a little. "What, do you mean?" he asked, his voice low, cautious. She smiled again, this time softer. Her eyes did not leave his face. "It means you are not safe alone here," she said. "But if you stay close to me, you may survive." Mark felt a chill. Down his spine, he looked around again. Empty chairs, broken lights, long shadows stretching like claws across the floor. The whole station seemed dead, yet alive in a way he could not understand. The woman moved gracefully, her hands busy polishing another cup, though no other customers were there. "You should drink," she whispered. "You will need your strength." Mark finally lifted the cup. The warmth spread through his hands and the smell was strangely calming. He took a small sip. The taste was unlike anything he had known, sweet, bitter, and fiery all at once. It filled him with sudden energy. His tired body felt lighter, but at the same time he felt uneasy. He put the cup down. "Why help me?" he asked, his voice firmer now. His human instinct told him that nothing was free, not even kindness in the cold of space. The woman leaned on the counter, her green eyes glowing brighter. "Because you came," she said simply, "and because you are human." Mark's heart pounded. He did not know whether to feel safe or in danger. Why would being human matter here? Why would this alien care? The silence of the canteen returned, only the sound of his cup clicking against the counter. Outside, something echoed through the empty corridors, a distant metallic bang, like heavy boots striking the floor. Mark turned sharply, his hand near his belt, ready to grab his sidearm. "What was that?" he asked. The alien woman's eyes flicked toward the door, then back to him. Her smile faded. Her whisper was sharper now, like a blade. "They are coming," she said. "Drink fast. Stay low and do exactly as I say." Mark's throat tightened. The canteen suddenly felt like a trap or maybe a shield, he couldn't tell which. The warm drink steamed between them, glowing faintly like fire in the darkness, and in that moment, Mark realized he had stepped into something far bigger, far more dangerous than a simple station stop. The empty station was not empty after all. The strange offer Mark sat frozen on the stool, the cup still steaming in front of him. The alien woman's words echoed in his head. "They are coming." He didn't know who they were, but he knew the sound of danger when he heard it. His hand stayed close to his belt, his eyes fixed on the woman. She moved calmly, as if nothing was wrong. Her long fingers polished the same cup again and again, the motion almost hypnotic. Her green eyes studied him carefully, like she was waiting for his reaction. Mark finally spoke, his voice low. "What do you mean they are coming? Who are you talking about?" The woman leaned closer, her hair brushing against the counter. Her whisper came soft but sharp. "Guards. Hunters. Call them what you wish. They do not care about your kind. Human flesh brings a price here, and you have walked into their cage." Mark's chest tightened. He looked at the door, half expecting armored figures to burst through at any moment. "If that's true, then why warn me?" he asked. His tone was suspicious but also curious. The alien woman tilted her head. Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Because you sat at my counter. Because you are the first human I have seen in a long, long time. And because maybe, just maybe, I do not want to see you die." Mark frowned. He did not trust strangers, especially not ones who whispered promises in empty places. But there was something strange in her tone. Not pity, not cruelty, but something in between. He pushed the cup away slightly. "You said you'll care for me. What do you want in return?" The woman's smile grew wider, but it was not playful. It was sad, almost bitter. "In return? Only your choice," she said. "You can trust me, and I can show you the way out. Or you can walk away, and the next set of boots you hear will be the last sound of your life." The words chilled him more than the cold air in the station. Mark's instincts screamed not to trust anyone, but his gut also told him this woman was different. There was a quiet urgency in her eyes, a silent plea hidden behind her calm expression. Mark leaned back on the stool, crossing his arms. "You're asking me to believe a stranger," he said. The alien woman's whisper deepened, almost like a song. "I am not asking for belief, I am offering survival. The drink you taste is not just for warmth, it shields your body, slows your heartbeat, hides your scent. Without it, they will smell you before they see you." Mark's eyes widened slightly. He looked at the glowing liquid again. The warmth in his veins from the first sip now felt more important than he had thought. "Why would you even have something like this?" he asked. She set the cup she was cleaning onto the counter. Her hands stilled, her voice grew softer. "Because I was once like you. Caught, hunted, owned, I learned their tricks, I learned their poisons, and I learned how to survive." Mark studied her face. The noble air about her, the mark on her cheek, the sadness in her smile. She was not lying, or at least not fully. Something in her story felt real, raw. "So you're a prisoner," Mark said slowly. Her eyes flickered with a strange light. "A prisoner, a servant, a survivor. Call me what you wish," she said. "But behind this counter I am more. This is my ground, my rules. And now perhaps yours too." Mark took another slow sip of the drink, letting its warmth slide through his chest. He looked at her again. "If I trust you, what then? Where do we go?" The alien woman leaned closer. Her whisper was so soft now that it brushed his ear like breath. "Beneath the counter lies a tunnel, old, forgotten. It leads to a hangar no one remembers. If we reach it, there is a ship, weak, broken, but free." Mark's jaw tightened. It sounded too good, too convenient. "And if it's a trap?" he asked. She smiled faintly, her eyes glowing in the dim light. "Then you will die by my hand instead of theirs. Is that not the kinder fate?" Mark stared at her, trying to read her soul through those green eyes. The air between them felt charged, like two blades crossing in silence. Before he could answer, a deep echo rang through the corridor outside. Heavy boots. Closer now, metal clanging against metal, the sound of more than one. The alien woman's hand moved quickly, sliding, the drink closer to him. "Choose now, human," she whispered urgently. "Drink and follow me or stay and meet them." Mark's pulse pounded, his fingers wrapped tight around the cup. He drank it in one fast swallow. The fire burned his throat but filled his body with strength. His decision was made. The woman's lips curved into the faintest of satisfied smiles. She pushed a small panel beneath the counter. A soft hiss and part of the floor slid open, revealing a narrow, dark passage going down. "Go," she whispered, "and do not look back." Mark hesitated only for a heartbeat, his soldier's instinct telling him it could be a trap, but the sound of boots growing louder made his choice clear. He slipped into the tunnel, the air, damp and cold. As the panel closed above him, the last thing he heard was her whisper, faint but sharp. "For a warm drink, you gave me your trust. Do not waste it." Mark crawled into the darkness, his heart racing, his mind burning with questions. Who was she? What was her real plan? Was this the start of survival, or the beginning of a deeper trap? The tunnel walls closed in tight. The sound of boots echoed, faintly above. And in that moment, Mark knew he had stepped deeper into her strange offer, a deal that could cost him everything. The night watch. The tunnel was narrow, damp, and smelled of old rust. Mark crawled forward, his hands brushing against the cold metal walls. The air was heavy, like it hadn't moved in years. He kept moving, his heart racing above him. Faint echoes of boots and voices rolled through the ceiling. The guards were inside the canteen now, searching. Mark clenched his jaw. He wondered if the alien woman would betray him. Was she telling the guards right now where he had gone, or was she truly protecting him? His mind wrestled with doubt, but his body pushed forward. The tunnel opened into a small chamber lit by a single broken lamp. There was space enough for him to stand. He pressed his ear to the wall, listening. Above, muffled voices spoke in a language he didn't know. Harsh, guttural tones mixed with the sound of heavy armor scraping against the floor. Then came the woman's voice, faint but steady. He couldn't make out the words, but her tone was calm, almost casual. She was talking to them, distracting them. Mark's fists tightened. He hated hiding while someone else took the risk. But he forced himself to wait, to listen. If he rushed back, he might ruin everything. Suddenly, the sound of a fist striking wood echoed above. A loud crash, a chair thrown, angry voices barked in unison. Mark's heart pounded harder. He pressed closer to the wall, his breath held, then silence. A heavy silence that pressed against his chest. Had they found her out? Had they killed her already? The lamp in the chamber flickered weakly, casting long, thin shadows across the walls. Mark's soldier instinct screamed that something was wrong. He crouched, hand on his weapon, waiting. Minutes dragged like hours. Then the panel above slid open with a soft hiss. The alien woman dropped lightly into the chamber. Her silver skin glowed faintly in the dim light. Her hair was messy now, and her cheek bore a fresh red mark, but she was alive. Mark exhaled slowly, lowering his weapon. "What happened?" he whispered. She looked at him, her green eyes still steady despite the bruise. "They asked questions, I gave answers. Nothing that betrayed you," she whispered back. "But they will not be fooled for long. They will search deeper." Mark studied her, part of him still unsure. "Why risk yourself?" he asked. "You could have given me up and they would have spared you." Her lips curved in that same sad smile. "Spared me? No, they do not spare anyone. I am useful only as long as I obey. If I betrayed you, I would live a little longer but not free. And freedom is the only thing worth risking." Her words struck him. He could hear the truth in her whisper. She was a prisoner, yes, but also a fighter in her own way. Mark nodded slowly. "So what now?" The woman pointed deeper into the tunnel. "The night watch has begun," she said. "They patrol every corridor. They will hunt until dawn. If we move now, we may slip through the cracks, Mark gritted his teeth. And if we don't? Her whisper was sharp, final. Then you will be their trophy before the sun rises. The two of them moved deeper into the tunnels, their footsteps soft, their breaths controlled. Every sound above them felt louder than it should. The creak of armor, the stomp of boots, the bark of commands. At one point, they reached a grate that opened into a hallway above. Mark carefully peered through it. His eyes widened. 5 guards walked in formation, tall and broad, wearing black armor that glowed faintly with red lights, their faces hidden behind helmets shaped like skulls. Each carried a long staff that buzzed with energy. Mark's gut twisted. He had fought soldiers, pirates, raiders, but these were different. Their steps were heavy, disciplined, like machines more than men. The woman leaned close, her whisper brushing his ear. The night watch. They never sleep. They never stop. If they see you, you are already dead. Mark swallowed hard, pulling back from the grate. How do we get past them? She gave him a long look, then whispered, We don't pass them, we wait. We move when they move. They patrol like a clock, predictable if you know the rhythm. They waited in the shadows, pressed close together. Mark could feel her calmness, the way her breath never quickened. She had done this before, survived nights like this many times. When the guards passed, their footsteps fading, the woman touched Mark's arm, guiding him forward. They slipped deeper into the darkness. Every step a gamble, every sound a possible death. At last, they reached another chamber, larger this time with rusted pipes and dripping water. The woman crouched low, pulling aside an old panel. Behind it was a ladder going down, deeper into the belly of the station. This way, she whispered. Mark hesitated, staring at the black hole of the ladder. How deep does this go? Deep enough to hide from the night watch, she said. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. But not forever. They will feel our trail sooner or later. Mark gripped the ladder, his soldier's instincts alert. Then we better stay ahead of them. As he began to climb down, the woman above him paused, listening. For a moment, Mark thought she heard something. Then she whispered one last warning, her voice tight. Do not trust the silence, human. In this station, silence is the loudest sound of all. And with that, she followed him into the darkness as the echoes of the night watch continued their endless patrol above. The escape plan. The ladder creaked as Mark climbed down. His hands slipped against the cold iron, dust and old rust stained his fingers. The tunnel grew darker with every step. Only the faint glow from the alien woman's eyes guided him. Finally, his boots touched solid ground. He found himself in a wide, circular chamber. Pipes ran along the walls, dripping water, that echoed like slow footsteps. Mark pulled out a small handlight from his belt. Its weak beam revealed broken crates, torn wires, and a floor full of stains that looked too much like dried blood. The alien woman landed softly behind him. Her silver skin shimmered faintly even. In the dark, she seemed completely at home in this place, while Mark felt like an intruder in a grave. Mark turned to her. You brought me here, now tell me, what's the plan? She looked at him quietly for a moment, then walked toward the far wall. Her fingers pressed against the surface. Searching. Mark followed, watching closely. At last, she found a hidden panel and pushed it aside. Behind it was a narrow passage. Going forward, the smell of oil and burned fuel rushed out. Mark's heart quickened. He knew that smell. It was the smell of ships. There, she whispered. The hangar, old, forgotten, but not empty. Mark narrowed his eyes. You knew about this all along. The alien woman gave him a faint smile. I told you, behind the counter I am more than a servant. This station has holes, cracks, places the guards do not see. I have walked them for years. Mark's soldier instinct still told him to be cautious. And why share this with me? Why not take the ship yourself and leave? Her smile faded, her eyes turning hard. Because I cannot fly it, she admitted. The codes, the systems, they respond to hands like yours, human hands. Mark was silent for a moment. The truth stung. He wasn't just a guest, he was her only chance. She needed him as much as he needed her. Fine, he said at last. We get to the ship together. But once we're in, You tell me everything. No more whispers, no more riddles. Her green eyes glowed brighter. Agreed, she whispered. They entered the passage, walking quickly. The floor sloped downward, leading them deeper into the belly of the station. The air grew warmer, carrying the faint hum of old engines. As they moved, Mark kept listening. Every sound made him tense. He could still hear distant echoes of the night watch above, but down. Here the silence was heavier. Finally, the passage opened into a vast chamber. Mark stopped in awe. It was a hidden hangar. A half-broken dome stretched overhead, starlight leaking in through cracks. At the center sat a small starship, its body, rusted paint peeled, engines lined with dust. But to Mark's trained eye, it was still alive. A fighter-class ship built for speed, not comfort. There it is, the woman whispered. Her voice carried a strange mix of hope and fear. Mark walked toward it slowly, circling the hull. He touched the cold metal with his palm. Old, he muttered. But it can work. She moved closer, watching his every move. Can you fly it? Mark gave a short laugh. I can fly anything with wings or thrusters. The question is, can it fly far enough? The woman looked at him, serious now. Far enough to escape, that is all that matters. Mark climbed the short ladder into the cockpit. He brushed away dust and powered up the controls. The panel lights flickered weakly, then slowly came alive. A low hum filled the chamber. The engines were asleep but not dead. He turned back to her. We'll need time to start it up, time. We don't have. Her whisper was sharp. Then we make time. Before Mark could answer, a sound broke through the hangar. The distant metallic echo of boots, heavy, steady, getting closer. The woman's face tightened. They've found the trail. Mark cursed under his breath. He jumped out of the cockpit, checking the entrance. The echo grew louder. The night watch was coming. He looked at her quickly. You said you know this place. How do we hold them off? She didn't flinch. She walked to a side wall and pulled a lever with a groan. Old machinery awoke. Metal shutters dropped across part of the passage, locking it temporarily. This will not stop them long, she whispered. But it will. Buy us minutes, Mark nodded. He climbed back into the cockpit, hands moving quickly across the controls. The ship's engine growled, coughing like a beast waking from sleep. The woman stood guard at the entrance, her eyes glowing bright in the dark. She held nothing but a broken pipe, yet her stance was firm. Mark glanced at her. If they get here before I lift off, we're dead. Her whisper came steady, filled with fire. Then fly faster, human. The engine roared louder. The cockpit lights glowed fully. Mark's chest tightened with adrenaline. He had flown in battles before, but never with this much weight on his shoulders. Behind him, the sound of metal tearing rang through the chamber. The guards were breaking the shutters. Their deep voices echoed closer. The alien woman looked back at him once, her eyes sharp. This is your moment, she whispered. Do not waste it. Mark gritted his teeth, pulling the thruster controls. The ship trembled, dust falling from the ceiling. The hangar lights flickered as power surged through old wires. The shutters finally gave way. A chorus of heavy boots rushed into the hangar, red lights glowing from their helmets. The night watch had arrived. Mark's voice was sharp. Get in, now! The alien woman sprinted to the cockpit, climbing in beside him. The guards raised their weapons, energy buzzing in the air. Mark slammed the ignition. The ship's engines screamed, fire bursting from the thrusters. The floor shook as the old fighter leapt forward, racing toward the half-broken dome above. Lasers streaked past, striking metal. Explosions shook the hangar. The night watch fired without mercy. The alien woman grabbed the side rail, her whisper fierce in his ear. Fly! Human, fly! Mark pulled hard on the controls. The ship lifted, fire blazing. The cracked dome tore wider as the fighter punched through, and as stars filled the view, Mark knew the escape had just begun. The betrayal. The fighter burst through the cracked dome, sparks trailing behind it as pieces of metal rained down into the hangar. Mark gripped the controls tightly, his jaw set, his eyes focused on the stars ahead. The ship rattled and groaned, but it held together beside him. The alien woman braced, herself, her green eyes glowing as she stared back through the cockpit glass. Below, The night watch fired again, but their shots missed as the ship shot upward into open space. Mark let out a breath he didn't know he was holding. "We're clear," he muttered. The woman's whisper was calm but firm. "Clear for now. Human, but they will not stop. The night watch always follows. They never give up." Mark adjusted the controls, setting the old fighter on a course away from the station. The stars stretched into lines as the ship's drives engaged. But even in that moment of escape, he could not shake the feeling that their struggle was only beginning. The cockpit was small, the air heavy with the scent of burnt fuel. The woman sat close, her silver skin faintly glowing in the dim lights. For the first time since he met her, Mark asked a question not from suspicion but from curiosity. "What's your name?" he said quietly. The alien woman looked at him, her lips curling into the faintest smile. "Names are dangerous here, human," she whispered. "But if you must call me something, call me Soraya." "Soraya," Mark repeated, the name soft on his tongue. "Fine, Soraya, where do we go now?" Her eyes darkened. "There is a place, an outpost beyond the dust fields hidden from their patrols, but it is far, and this ship is old. We will need luck." "Or help," Mark frowned. "Help from who?" Before Soraya could answer, a light on the console began to blink. A transmission request. Someone was reaching out to them. Mark's instincts screamed danger. "Don't answer it," he said quickly. But Soraya placed a hand on his arm. "It may be an ally. There are others who live in the shadows. Not all who serve the watch." Against his better judgment, Mark accepted the signal. The screen flickered, revealing a familiar face. It was the other alien worker from the canteen, the one who had seemed quiet, harmless, always keeping his head down. His pale blue skin shimmered in the transmission light, his eyes darted nervously. "Soraya," he said quickly, his voice urgent. "You made it out. And a human. You brought a human with you." Mark narrowed his eyes. His gut twisted. Something about the man's smile was too sharp, too forced. Soraya leaned closer to the screen, whispering, "Rawl, how did you know where to find us?" The alien on the screen, Rawl, smiled wider. "Because I never stopped watching, you thought you hid well, Soraya, but the watch pays me to know everything." Mark's hand shot to the console, cutting the transmission. But it was too late. A warning alarm blared. Their location had been traced. Soraya's face darkened, her whisper filled with venom. "Betrayer," she hissed. "I should have known," Mark cursed. "They'll be on us any second, strap in." The fighter jolted violently as red markers appeared on the radar. Pursuers, fast and deadly. The night watch had locked on. Guided by Rawl's betrayal, Soraya gripped the console, her voice sharp. "We cannot outrun them in open space there. Is only one chance. Through the dust fields, dangerous but better than certain death." Mark gritted his teeth. "Dust fields?" "An asteroid belt full of storms, shadows, and old wrecks," Soraya whispered quickly. "No watch ship dares follow too deep, but if you are skilled human, you can make it." Mark didn't hesitate. He pulled hard on the controls. The fighter veered sharply, stars twisting outside the cockpit. Behind them, the watch ships gave chase. The dust fields loomed ahead, a swirling storm of rock and gas glowing faintly in the starlight. Lightning crackled across massive clouds of cosmic dust. Asteroids spun wildly, smashing into each other. Mark pushed the fighter straight into the chaos. The ship shook violently, alarms screaming. The radar filled with noise. Behind them, the watch followed, lasers streaking past. One hit close, shaking. The hull. Mark fought the controls, his muscles burning. Soraya leaned close, whispering in his ear. "Left now!" Mark twisted the ship just as a massive asteroid spun past, barely missing them. Another bolt of lightning struck a watch ship, tearing it apart. Mark let out a harsh laugh. Not so tough when the storm fights back. But even as they weaved through the chaos, more ships pressed in. The betrayal had given the watch a clear target, and they would not let go. Soraya's voice was urgent now. "There is a cavern ahead, a wreck of an old freighter inside. If we hide in its shadow, the watch may lose us." Mark's hands moved, quickly guiding the fighter into the gap between two colliding rocks. The wreck appeared. A massive broken ship drifting silently, its hull cracked and hollow. He slipped the fighter into the shadow of the wreck, Powering down the engines, the cockpit went dark. Only the faint glow of Soraya's eyes lit the space. Outside, the watch ships swept past, their red lights scanning, searching. But they did not see the fighter hidden in the wreck's embrace. Slowly, their engines faded into the distance. Mark sat back, his chest heaving, sweat dripping down his forehead. He had done it. For now, at least. Soraya turned to him, her whisper soft again, but sharp with meaning. "You see now, human? Betrayal waits behind every smile. Rahl sold us for his life, and now we are hunted harder than ever." Mark nodded grimly. "Then we'll hunt him back," he said. "No one betrays me and walks away." Soraya's eyes glowed brighter, a spark, a fire hidden inside. "Perhaps," she whispered, "you are the weapon I was waiting for." And in that silent wreck, surrounded by shadows, the fragile bond between them grew stronger, forged not by trust, but by betrayal. The hangar battled afar. Wreck drifted in silence, its giant broken frame hiding the small fighter in its shadow. Mark kept the engines off, his hands tight on the controls. He listened, waiting. The watch ships had passed, but he knew they would circle back. They always did. Beside him, Soraya sat still, her glowing green eyes fixed on the dark void ahead. Her whisper came low. "They will return, human. They always search twice." Mark nodded, his chest was tight with tension. He had fought soldiers before, but this enemy was different. They hunted with patience, with discipline, and they had been betrayed, which meant they would not stop until both of them were dead. A faint beep from the console made him curse under. His breath, radar picked up movement. 3 watch ships looping back toward the wreck, red dots closing in fast. "They're sweeping the wreck," Mark muttered. "They'll find us if we stay." Soraya's whisper was sharp. "Then we cannot. Stay, we must fight." Mark turned to her, his brow furrowed. "Fight? In this rust bucket? Against 3 ships? That's suicide." Her green eyes narrowed, glowing brighter. "Not suicide," she whispered. "If you use the wreck, if you use the field, you can turn their strength against them." Mark hesitated, then looked back at the massive broken freighter around them, its jagged metal arms stretched wide, sharp edges floating like blades in the dark. If he moved fast enough, he could use those broken pieces like weapons. His lips tightened into a grim smile. "All right then. Let's make this ugly." He powered the engines, the fighter roared to life, dust and rust shook loose from the wreck. The watch ships instantly changed course. Red lights burning as they closed in, Mark pulled the fighter out from the shadow, weaving through the wreck's twisted skeleton. The first watch ship opened fire, beams slicing past, exploding against broken steel. The whole wreck shuddered. Soraya's whisper was calm but fierce. "Closer, human, bring them closer." Mark dived low, scraping the hull of the wreck by inches. The watch ships followed, chasing him through the narrow metal maze. One turned too sharply, its wing clipping a broken beam. The ship spun out, crashing into another jagged piece. Fire burst in the void as it broke apart. Mark let out a sharp laugh. One down, but the other 2 were faster, smarter. They fired again, beams cutting across his path. The fighter rattled as one shot grazed the hull, warning alarms screaming. Soraya leaned close, whispering directions. "Right now! Sharp left! Lower!" Mark followed her voice, dodging between massive chunks of steel. His heart pounded with the rush, his soldier's reflexes kicked in. This was where he lived, on the edge between death and victory. The second watch ship pulled ahead, trying to cut them off. Mark's jaw tightened. "Hold on," he growled. He pulled the fighter into a sudden roll, scraping so close to the wreck that sparks lit up the cockpit glass. Then he dived, cutting across the second ship's path. The enemy fired but missed, their beam striking a loose engine pod drifting nearby. The explosion ripped through the void, shredding the watch ship in flames. Soraya's whisper was almost a hiss. 2 gone, 1 remains. Mark grinned, but his relief was short-lived. The third watch ship locked onto them, faster and sharper than the others. It closed the distance quickly, beams striking again and again. One blast rocked the fighter hard. The cockpit. Lights flickered. Systems groaned. Mark cursed. "Shields are down to nothing." Soraya's hand pressed against the console, her whisper low but urgent. One chance, human, one place to strike. Mark glanced at her, sweat dripping down his forehead. Where? She pointed to the wreck's center, a massive broken fuel core still faintly glowing. The core, unstable. If you can draw him close, one spark will end him. Mark's eyes narrowed. And maybe end us too. Her whisper was sharp as a blade. Better to die on your terms than theirs. Mark gritted his teeth, pushing the thrusters. The fighter sped toward the glowing core, weaving through broken beams. The watch ship followed close, its beams striking again, tearing chunks of metal loose. Alarms screamed, smoke filled the cockpit. Mark's vision blurred, but his hands stayed steady on the controls. He pulled the fighter low, dragging the enemy closer. The glowing core loomed ahead, crackling with unstable energy. Mark's lips curled into a grim smile. Come on. Follow me in. The watch ship did, firing nonstop. Its beams struck the wreck, sparks flying, pieces of steel tore loose, raining into the core. Soraya whispered sharply, Now, human, now. Mark pulled the fighter into a sudden sharp climb. The watch ship, too close and too fast, couldn't turn in time. It struck the glowing core directly. The explosion lit the void like a sun. Fire ripped through the wreck. The watch ship shattered into pieces. Energy waves blasted outward, slamming. Against the fighter, Mark fought the controls, the cockpit shaking violently. Hold together, come on, hold together. The fighter spun, alarms blaring. But somehow, by sheer force of will and luck, it pulled clear of the blast. For a long moment, silence filled the cockpit. Mark's chest heaved, sweat dripping. He could barely believe they were still alive. Soraya looked at him, her whisper soft but filled with something new. Respect. You fought like a storm, human. You turned their hunt into their grave. Mark gave a tired laugh, shaking his head. Yeah, but next time, let's not make it so close. Soraya's smile was faint but real. Close is how survival is born. Outside, the wreck burned, pieces scattering into the void. The Night Watch had been defeated here, at least for now, but Mark knew this was not the end. The betrayal had marked them, and more enemies would come. He looked at Soraya, his voice steady. Then we don't stop. We take the fight to them. We make sure betrayal cuts both ways. Her glowing eyes locked on his, her whisper carrying both promise and warning. Then, human, your war has just begun. The whisper's true meaning, the fighter drifted through the silent void. Its hull, scorched and trembling from the battle. Alarms still blinked weakly, but the engines hummed steady. Holding them alive, Mark sat in the cockpit, his hands tight on the controls. His chest rose and fell heavily. He had flown through storms, war zones, and fire before, but never like this. Beside him, Soraya was quiet. Her glowing green eyes watched the stars stretch across the glass. Her silver skin reflected the dim lights. The fire of survival still burned inside her, but her face showed something else too. Relief and a strange softness. Mark finally broke the silence, his voice rough. We made it, but they'll come. Again, you said the Night Watch never stops. Her whisper came calm, steady. They do not, human. They will hunt until either they take you, or you destroy them. Mark's jaw tightened. He hated running, hated hiding. But he also knew this wasn't just his fight anymore. He looked at her, studying her quiet strength. Then tell me the truth, Soraya. Why me? Out of all the souls in the galaxy, why whisper to me behind that counter? Her eyes flickered for the first time she looked away. Her whisper dropped low, almost fragile. Because I was dying there, human. Slowly, quietly behind that counter. My body alive, but my spirit broken. No one looked at me as more than a servant, a tool, until you walked in, tired, lost, but still unbroken. I saw fire in you, and I needed that fire. Mark blinked, her words cutting deeper than he expected. So it wasn't just about survival. She turned her eyes back to him, her whisper carrying both strength and sorrow. Survival was the drink I offered, but trust. Trust was the care I promised. Behind that counter I whispered, not for trade, not for seduction, but for something I had almost forgotten. Hope. Mark stared at her, his chest tightening. He thought back to that first moment, the warm cup, her soft voice, the danger in her tone. He had believed it was a trick, a trap. But now he understood. It had been a plea, a lifeline thrown in silence. The fighter jolted slightly, pulling him back. The stars outside shifted. The dust field slowly thinned, revealing open space. Soraya pointed toward the horizon. Beyond that line there is a hidden outpost, old allies, broken rebels. They will not trust you at first, but they will trust me. If we reach them, we can rest, plan, strike back. Mark gave a sharp nod. Then that's where we go. The cockpit fell quiet again. But this time it wasn't the silence of fear. It was the silence before something new. Before trust, before choices yet to come. Soraya leaned back, her whisper softer now. You humans are strange. You fight like storms, but you drink like children. You laugh at death, but you cry when you are alone. Perhaps that is why I believed in you. Perhaps that is why the Watch fears you. Mark smirked faintly. Or maybe you just like the way I fly. For the first time, Soraya laughed. Not loud, not sharp, but a small, real laugh that carried warmth. It echoed in the tiny cockpit like light in the dark, but the moment was cut short by another alarm. A faint signal flashing on the console, not an attack, but a message. Mark frowned, opening it. The words glowed across the screen. Rawl lives. Soraya's face hardened instantly. The whisper in her throat turned sharp, almost like steel. He escaped. The betrayer still breathes. Mark slammed a fist against the console. Then he'll bring them again. He won't stop until he finishes what he started. Soraya leaned closer, her eyes glowing like fire. Then we will not wait for him, human. We will go to him first. We will turn betrayal into fear. Mark's lips tightened into a thin smile. Now that sounds like a plan. The engines roared softly as he adjusted their course. The fighter shook but obeyed, cutting through the void, chasing the path ahead. Soraya's whisper softened again just for him. Do you remember my first words, human? For a warm drink, I'll care for you behind the counter. Mark nodded slowly. I remember. Her eyes glowed brighter. Now you know what I meant. The drink was survival. The counter was my cage. But care was my promise, that if you trusted me, I would never let you stand alone. Not against the Watch. Not against betrayal. Not even against death. Mark felt the weight of her words, heavy but true. For the first time in years, he didn't feel like a soldier running from war. He felt like a man standing beside someone who understood. He gave her a small, tired smile. Then I'll hold you to that promise, Soraya, because from here on out we fight together. Her whisper carried both fire and peace. Together. Outside, the stars stretched wide, endless, waiting. The fighter burned forward, carrying a human and an alien bound not by chance, but by a whisper that had grown into something greater. Trust, hope, and the spark of a new war, and in the silence of space, Mark finally understood. The whisper had not been an invitation to danger. It had been a call to destiny. The empty station was far behind them. But the war of their lives had only just begun.